Welcome to a really sacred, special episode with a client turned good friend. Katie Jameson's on the podcast, and we're going to do our best to stay on track because we like to go on tangents. And Katie, I just want to, before I officially introduce you, say welcome and how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm a little nervous, but good. It's like an excited nervous.
Yeah, nerves are loud, excitement, fear, all of it, human experience. And what I want to say to the listener is how I'm geeking out right now because when we had set to record this podcast, we didn't have planned what we have coming up now, which we've since planned a family trip in
Yeah.
August, and we're gonna go to Dollywood. And I'm just so excited because I sent you a reel this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but it was a funny reel about a therapist being mad when she finds cool clients. She can't talk to them outside of therapy. And I sent it to you, and I was like, thank God this doesn't apply to coaching, because you've truly become such a real friend. Katie is the only person who's been able to get me back on the Marco Polo app. I've always felt like that app was a drag, but I love Marco Poloing with Katie. She's entertaining. Her her video messages to me are like podcasts in themselves, but I love you. So Katie, and then your husband worked with Sebastian when we did the men's program, and Sebastian and Katie's husband Brandon have a bromance going on. They went on a retreat together, which
Yeah,
she and I are
still
jealous
going
about.
pretty strong.
Yeah, they're still going pretty strong. We'll see whose connection ends up being, stronger, Brandon and Sebastian's or our relationship in our marriages. So, Katie, can we start out just by getting to know a little bit about you, insight into how, yeah, you live your life, what you are up to, what you do?
Like, oh,
That was a
what
terrible
kind of?
question. Let me re
I was
rewind.
like,
How you live your
yeah,
life.
go for it. I was like,
Let me
oh,
rewind. Let me rewind. So, Katie, can you just share a little bit about you so the audience can get to know you?
okay. So I am in my mid 30s. I'm 35. That feels weird because I feel like in my brain I'm stuck at like 24. Must have been a good year. Um, anyways, I have three kids. Um, they are 6, 4, and 8 months old. My husband and I have been married for 12, almost 12 years. In August, it'll be 12 years, which also that sounds weird to say.
Okay.
Um,
What? What day in August?
August 16th.
Okay, so we're going to be celebrating your anniversary when we see each other a week
Yeah,
early.
that would be awesome. Um, I let's see. I don't even know. There's what else about me would
So
be
you
important to know.
stay
I
at
was
home,
raised,
you homeschool, right?
well, I'm a stay-at-home mom right now, which is actually such an interesting situation. Most of my life, I feel like so many of my life experiences and even like my examples were preparing me for the workforce. But when I was pregnant with my son, I felt I'm a bit rebellious in nature, I think, um, because I kind of felt like I didn't have a kid to let someone else raise them. And it took me, my husband and I, it took us 5 years to have kids for emotional and physical reasons. Um, and when we finally decided to have our son, I was like, no, I'm going to stay home because I recognized that one of the things about me that I kept doing in my marriage before kids was putting like prioritizing work over everything. I got the, like, because it gave me more instant gratification than my relationships. It gave me a better sense of accomplishment, like tangible. And I noticed I kept putting it above everything else because it was feeding some not healed things in myself. And so I decided I wouldn't do that when I had kids just because I was going to burn my boats and I was going to make myself figure out how to prioritize the things that actually matter. I don't think that like your job doesn't matter, but I feel like relationships are central to our growth. And I feel like they have the most meaning in life. And I was
Ugh,
really bad at them. So I
I
burned
love
my boats and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And my husband supported me in that. And it's been good. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever done because like I said, I felt like I was naturally everything prepared me for the workforce and not for motherhood. So I'm kind of having to figure out the skills myself. And
you.
I feel bad for my kids a little bit because I'm like, we all don't know what we're doing together.
You are my guinea pigs. I love you all. Yeah,
But
no, you're an amazing mom
it's
for the
also healed like parts of me. What was that?
You're an amazing mom. I see on your polos them crashing into your videos and how much you love them. And your baby's so cute. So I love that. It's inspiring. I'm gonna go quit my job right now. The end of episode. That is my takeaway. I'm just kidding. Maybe not right now, but I really resonate with what you said. I know a lot of women on here listening. They know what it's like to get caught up in work, and it is more instant gratification. And yet we're trying to figure out for those of us who do want to figure out a work mom life balance, like how do we do that? How do we slow down and settle our nervous system down enough to be able to be present for both? Or for some, it
Yeah,
might be an aha moment like you had that I find very inspiring. That I just, while they're little, they're only little once. If I'm able to, I'm gonna be as present as possible. So,
yeah.
I want to know, and well, I already know, but can you share with those listening what were the main challenges that you faced before finding me, working with me, going through the Root to Rise journey?
There's so many. Um, like, okay, so I remember your reels would pull up on my algorithm. Like I didn't follow you, but I think after seeing like 5 or 6 reels from you, I was like, okay, I need to actually look into this because you were talking about the one that got me. So a lot of them were talking about marriage and like transforming in your marriage without your husband needing to change kind of stuff. But the one that got me was when you talked about like the trickle down effects of doing this work made you a better parent. And I remember, so I was struggling a lot with, I felt completely disconnected from my spouse. I felt completely disconnected from myself. I was like waking up every morning dreading having to be a mom because I felt like every morning I woke up and I did it wrong and I would just go to bed feeling defeated. And then the next morning would come way too soon and I'd be like in for that cycle again. And I remember telling my husband, imagine starting a job and feeling like you innately suck at it, but you still have to do the job because it matters and you can't quit. You cannot find another job. And every day you have to go into a job that matters to you and matters to society, and you innately suck at it. And you have to go into your job and suck every day and then go to bed and then do it again. That's how like I was stuck in a cycle of that. And I felt that as a mom and I felt it like as a wife. Like I could not, my husband and I both come from some pretty complex traumatic backgrounds. And we both felt that we wanted better. Like that's one of the reasons we wanted to be together initially was because we both felt like we were trying to achieve better than what we came from, but we had no skills on how to do that. So I felt like even as I showed up as a wife, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm sucking at this too. And I didn't have a job to escape in. Um, so
It's
there was
real.
that going on. Yeah. And then I also struggle. So I've always struggled with perfectionism. I think that's a combination of like my ADHD, my religious upbringing, um, because I also had like my ADHD also has an anxiety component. So I think it was a perfect storm. Like I don't blame my religious upbringing for my perfectionism. I just think it exacerbated something that was already there. Um,
And type fours go to one in stress, don't they? For
yeah.
any,
I think 2. I don't know.
right. They go to two in stress, they go to one in health. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was, yeah, so I was coming at it from like I felt like I couldn't not nag my husband. Like I was so critical, so nitpicky of myself, of him, of our kids, of our life. And like I felt like all I could see was like everything going wrong and I had no skills, not no skills, but I didn't feel like I had the right skills to fix it. And and actually I remember our first call, my first call with you. I wasn't even interested in fixing my marriage.
I remember.
I was like, that's dead in the water. Like, I'm not even here for that. I'm here for my kids. Like, I'm here to try to figure out how do I show up as a better mom for my kids. Do you remember?
I do remember. I remember very clearly. I was like, okay, she's not interested in saving her marriage like most of the women coming in here, and that's fine. Like my goals are your goals. So, but it felt like a second ago.
Yeah. And yeah, because he and I just like, we had the toxic dance of like, um, I don't know how to describe the dance, even though I have it memorized perfectly, where I would just be like overcritical and he would retreat and then I would pursue and then I'd get exasperated and be like, forget this. And then I would feel like pursued when I was like, forget this. And I was like, what the heck? Why are you like, that whole mess. Um, and but it's funny too, because like my previous religion put a lot of emphasis on marriage. And I was actually talking to my husband about this the other day that like I don't think I would have stayed had I had a faith transition beforehand. But I'm grateful. I do believe in God. So I do think it was a God thing that things fell into place in the time and place that they did because I would have missed out on all the growth if I had just been like, forget this, we're moving on.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I remember that being a big part of your journey was the spirituality part. And I know in the
Yeah.
course, that's the last module as we get into addressing spiritual trauma and healing spiritual wounds. But that seemed to sneak up on you early, I remember. I don't know if it was midway
Yeah.
through, but can you share a bit what
Mhm.
role God, spirituality played in your journey?
I do remember like looking at the modules and when it said like spiritual trauma, I was like, oh, I don't have that. That's not going to apply to me. Um, so I feel like it did sneak up on me in a big way. Um, I think that, man, I think that one of the things that your program does and did for me, and I think this is why everything else improved once I joined the program. Well, one, I just want to say that like I started experiencing change the moment I committed, which sounds kind of crazy, but I do feel like the more I learn about frequency and energetics and things like that, when we make a choice to invest in ourselves, to invest in our soul's growth, that energy carries over into other aspects of our lives. And so even before I'd even done the first module, I'd even attended the first meeting, before I'd done anything, opportunities for spiritual growth opened up to me. And I took them because I had already put out the energy that I was willing to take these opportunities when I committed to the program. And so, like, we'll call it plant medicine. I did a plant medicine journey before I'd even joined the program, but it was after I'd committed to the program. And I don't think that's like, I feel like that's not coincidence. I feel like
Yeah.
that opportunity opened up to me because I showed that I was open to the opportunity to change and grow. And that was a life changing experience. And then I got to go from like that life changing experience to the life changing experience of your program. And the thing that your program did for me, and what I was going to say is the thing I think it does, the reason I think it transformed my marriage when I wasn't even showing up for that, has improved my motherhood, was it reconnected me to myself. I was so disconnected from myself. I was living so far out of my values that, I mean, the natural result of that is anxiety, depression, frustration, anger, all that stuff. And as I started to do your program, module by module, piece by piece, I started returning to myself. And I do believe that when we return to ourselves, we connect to God because He created us and He didn't ask us to live out of alignment with who we are. And as I started to live further in alignment, I started to draw closer to Him
Mm-hmm.
and like understand that He was bigger than all the boxes my upbringing put Him in.
Yeah.
He's bigger than all the scriptures that even exist. And I love scripture. And I'm not a person who's like, don't read the scriptures. But I do like think that sometimes get to have these cool divine experiences. How do I say this? The only way I know how to say it is like to relate it to this experience. A lot of times I would have experiences with God in the religious framework I was raised in. And at the time, I would take it as a confirmation that the framework was true, not that God was good. And I started to realize through this process that these experiences with God are testifying to me of who God is, not necessarily the framework, the truthfulness or the correctness or the perfection of the framework in which I'm having the experience. Does that make sense?
It does. And I find it fascinating. I can relate. Most of my listeners already know I've had my own spiritual trauma and good gold that I have gleaned from all of my upbringing and
Mm-hmm.
all of the negative experiences. I can say tenfold good about it as well. But I find it so interesting, this pattern of people who grew up in traumatic either households or have gone through trauma that's still unresolved. They tend to gravitate towards these very black and white, legalistic, type communities spiritually. And so I just find it really fascinating that that became such a big part of your journey. And I'm curious if you can describe what your process was for trying to heal and achieve peace in yourself again, before working with Root to Rise. What were the things you tried to fix you or to heal?
I almost feel like, what didn't I try? Because that would be a longer, a shorter list. I did talk therapy off and on for years and years and years. And it was just top down, not very beneficial. I'm really good at grasping theory. I actually really like my brain, but I could not, it didn't matter how much theory I understood the behavior, what I felt like trapped. I told my husband I felt like I was spinning my wheels for a really long time. And I didn't start making traction until I joined Root to Rise. So I did talk therapy, marriage therapy. I even went so far as to think, okay, well, something's physically wrong with me. So I went to all the doctors. I went to like Western medical doctors, and then I started moving more into the wellness sector where there's functional medicine and integrative. I got genetics tests done to try to figure out what's at play genetically with me. I did EMDR, which I actually found pretty beneficial, but still wasn't like it helped lighten the emotional load of a relationship that I did it for,
Yeah.
the experiences, but it didn't help me show up as a better parent. Like I felt some relief, but I was still trapped in certain cycles and dances that were not helpful. And so, yeah, I did all of that. I'd never tried, well, actually, I did do coaching. I forgot about this. I did sign up before your program with a newer coach. And that was helpful because I got to check in with her more than I did a therapist. Um, and she introduced me to breath work. I struggled with breath work at first. It actually made me feel anxious. So it actually benefited my husband because I gave him the breath work resources and he really loved it. So there's that. But yeah, and then um I did lots of different diets because I was like, okay, well, maybe it's inflammation. I have ADHD. Let's find a diet that helps support ADHD. Like I did all sorts of things
You tried it
before your
all.
program.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so
a
glad
lot.
you brought that up, the breathwork piece, because for some nervous systems, just depending on where you're at, that is more activating than healing. For Sebastian too, breathwork was huge. That was a really big breakthrough for him, but it's not for everyone, especially the types of breath work. There's gentle, but then there is more can call it excavation, where it's like we are releasing trauma. Some people's nervous systems are not ready for that. You've got to establish safety first. And same with
Yeah.
EMDR. I really have heard amazing, I've done it myself too and have benefited from it, but I've heard amazing breakthroughs with EMDR. But I've also heard re-traumatization stories for people that don't have safety established in their nervous system. Sometimes the experience is way more traumatizing than healing. And so it's really
Yeah.
important you either have a somatic foundation or you're with somebody who really knows how to go slow, how to track your nervous system, who's trauma informed, who's going to make sure you know how to resource safety because it can open up a can of worms that your body's not ready for. Now,
Yeah. I've also,
go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, I've also heard that. Luckily, I feel like I had a therapist who was really good at, she was trauma informed.
So important. That's so
So when I
good.
look back, I'm like, man, that was a good thing that that worked out, but that could have gone wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So people
Have
just
safety.
gotta listen to their body ultimately at the end of the day. Whatever modality you're trying, just go slow into it and check, is this making my nervous system settle even a little bit? Is it activating it beyond like anything too fast, too hard, too soon? And so now, fast forward, Katie, I want to know, and I'm so excited to hear this in your own words because even when we caught up, I mean, after you graduated Root to Rise, and then we caught up months later, I was catching up with you on Zoom. And so I was able to see your energy, your body language, your kids coming into the room and the way you responded to them. And I was like, I literally do not recognize you right now. Like, I think you remember this. I was speechless. I was
Yeah.
just trying to catch up with this version of Katie that I had never seen. And so I know your expansion and healing has gone even far beyond the program. What does your
Mhm.
process now for achieving safety in your own nervous system, or in your words, just coming home to yourself, self-trust, what does that look like now since going through the program?
Now it still involves like a lot of, I just think they're foundational, like the um somatic exercises I learned there. I also have other ones now, like the box breathing, which it sounds like I remember first joining and being like, there's no way that that's going to be that helpful. It's too simple. Like I laugh. The me that started your program, she was funny. Um, but like it does, like the box breathing. I remember at one of the guest coaching calls, we talked about looking for red things. And I remember my stepmom and I went to London. We were hiking up St. Paul's. I was pregnant and I wanted to do it because I was like, I didn't come this far to not do this. And I started having a panic attack on the staircase because it was kind of narrow. And they was like, if I get stuck, like, it's like you're like right up against all the people in line. It's like a slow moving line on a narrow staircase. And I remembered someone talking about looking for things that are red, find 5 red things. So I started looking for 5 red things. And I've even taught my kids, we live on some acreage. And so when we're having a hard time, we go outside and we look for 5 red things. My favorite bird is a cardinal because we have them where we live and they're red. And because someone talked about how red is a more rare color in nature. And so looking for 5 red things takes time and it forces you to like come back to your body to like kind of get grounded because you're focusing on something else. So I do things like that. I even bought a deck of cards that have, it's like coping skills. So it has somatic activities, things to do. And my daughter, when she's like dysregulated, she'll ask, can I use your cards? And we'll find the cards and we'll do whatever it says. The other thing is like a lot of grace. I still have triggers. And I'm starting to realize that healing isn't getting to the point where you're not triggered. I also joined one of the guest speakers you had on is does the grief recovery method. And I actually am meeting with her currently to work on because I realized, so full disclosure, I have issues with rage. I always have. I remember being really young and being so angry my whole body was shaking and asking my mom for help and she was like, I don't know what you're doing. Like almost kind of like what is wrong with you, although I don't think she said that. And I think she just her parents were not emotive
Yeah.
at all. And so then she marries my dad, who's like a lot of big emotions all the time. And then
Big
she has a
heart.
daughter, yeah, who has a lot of big emotions. So I think my mom was just a little bit out of her league with trying to figure it out. So um one of the things I do now is like that I learned in your program and also like got better also reinforced by meeting with um
Sarah.
Sarah Beth, is that understanding myself, like giving myself the grace and understanding that I strive to give other people. So she often talks about like the soup of the day, and she's like, "Hey, tell me the soup of the day." Like I'll have a freak out, or I'll have a moment where I'm super triggered and I don't handle it. I might handle it. I do most of the time now handle it better, but still not where I want to be. And I just go through the soup of the day. I'm like, okay, well, what contributed to that reaction? And then like hand over my heart. That makes sense.
Ugh.
It makes sense that I did that. It's understandable. It doesn't serve me. What do I want to do next time? What is the way I can handle this that respects myself and shows the respect I want to show to my kids or my husband?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff has been, it's so funny because I think my entire life I was looking for grace and understanding and compassion and kindness from others. And I really just needed it from myself.
That's the game changer. And I think it's so interesting how we get it twisted and somehow think that if we offer ourselves compassion, grace, whatever, it's going to make us soft and go deeper into whatever behavior we're trying to avoid. And it's a total
Yeah.
leap of faith when you first practice it. One, it's like, really, how is this going to help? Like, this feels too
Yeah.
simple and way too soft. I need something more intense or more groundbreaking or paradigm shifting, or like you were saying, you love your brain, something that's like harder, that the ego, is like, this is difficult and probably going to work. When what I'm hearing you say, what I have found, what I've seen woman after woman after woman experience is the key to the biggest breakthroughs is that soft self-compassion and radical self-acceptance. And
Mhm.
what I love
I
is you go on to work with Sarah, because as you know, those listening who don't know, we have a different guest expert come in every Wednesday night that I hand select that's either personally changed my life or just a colleague that I want my clients in the program to get a taste of. And there's been numerous women in the program who have gone on to really resonate with one, expert and ended up
mhm.
working with them outside of the program. And that was their next sacred breadcrumb and their breakthrough. And so it makes me so happy because I know what has been my biggest breakthroughs with this somatic healing, and I offer you guys everything. But I am not the end all be all. We are a collective. There's so many resources, so much, opportunity out there that if I can just help you dial in on your own unique intuition, that was a hit for you. Like, ooh, this Sarah Beth
Yeah.
woman I'm resonating with, and you followed that. And so I know one of the big reasons that the reel that resonated with you to even sign up in the first place or to book the discovery call was about it trickling into my parenting and our
Mhm.
kids. So I'd love to hear from you just how this has changed your relationship with your kids.
Um, this has definitely benefited my relationship with my kids. I feel like I felt overwhelmed because I felt like I didn't know how to parent them. And there's aspects of parenting I still struggle with, like the line of like discipline, like natural consequences, punishments. Like I still am trying to figure that out. But
Which
if I'm
we,
being super honest,
yeah,
what was that?
no, I was gonna say we were talking about in those moments. Now we're chat GPTing what would Dr. Becky Kennedy do? Moment.
Yes. Um, I also felt like I was resenting them.
Yep.
And I don't feel that level of resentment anymore. And I felt a lot of shame for resenting them because I was like, this is not your fault. You're a normal kid. But anytime they would do something that my nervous system perceived as dangerous because I would have gotten in trouble or some X, Y, and Z would have happened to me, then it's really my relationship. Oh, sorry. It's my relationship with my oldest. Because he's the reason I went to therapy and did EMDR because I felt this urge to squash him to protect him from what was done to me. And I was like, that makes no sense. Why would I do to you what was done to me to protect you from what was done to me? And it didn't make any sense in my brain. I was like, I'm not for this. Um, but then I felt like I don't know another way to do this. So I felt like I was constantly going on this pendulum swing between like authoritarian and permissive,
Yeah.
which is not neither of those is good for kids. And then he would have like these big feelings. My daughter actually now has bigger feelings, but and I wouldn't know how to help him with them. I was like, dude, same.
Yeah.
Like he'd have a tantrum, like same man, same. And I can like empathize with what you're going through. I don't know how to help you. And so this program has helped me a lot. One, it helped me like in bringing me back to myself. It helped me trust my intuition. I feel like I'm a lot more in tune with them now. And I don't handle everything even the way that I would like to, but I'm a lot better at repair, which matters a ton. It actually matters more than not rupturing.
Yes.
And it's helped me to be able to like set an example of grace
Hmm.
because I can talk to my kids about, hey, I was feeling this and I did this. And that makes sense. I understand myself now and I understand why I did that, but it doesn't help me. And it's not helping me be the mom I want to be, or it's not helping me create the relationship I want us to have. And like I can talk them through that. Like that's the other thing is I feel like I didn't realize that as parents, like you can literally just talk them through your thought process and they learn from that. Like they learn from watching you do it. My parents were just like, because I said so, which is fine. Like that's how they were raised. They didn't have the example of this is the thought process that went into why I did this.
Yeah. And it
This
takes
is
the
the
weight
thought
off
process
of
that's
you.
what was that?
It takes the weight off of you just being honest with them. We can put on this mom
Yeah.
shield and try to act like we have it all together because we're afraid if we don't send this energy that we've got it all together, they're not going to trust us. They're not going to believe us. They're not going to listen. But just being authentic is a frequency and an energy that connects more than anything. So you just being honest, like,
Yeah.
hey, why I said this. And I'm sure on our vacation coming up, we're going to have plenty of opportunities for repair, bringing two families
Oh
outside of their comfort zones. Yeah, we're going to have to team up, girl. We've got this. But
yeah.
you're a busy mom of three, and time commitment was something that came up for you early on in the journey of, oh, I'm afraid I'm not
Yeah.
going to get the results that I want because I'm not showing up perfectly for everything. Can you describe the time commitment needed from your end through the journey?
So I don't remember. I think it was maybe 3 hours a week.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't remember. But I do remember being super nervous because also perfectionism was at play. And I was one of those that like if I am not sure that I can show up and do it perfectly, I don't think I can do it. And then I decided to just trust the process and show up. And um I did not go through the modules for a really long time. Because I think when I joined, I had like a year to do the program. And um I was so nervous about doing the modules and doing them perfectly and like taking the right notes and like that I was like, I feel a little bit paralyzed. I'm just going to show up to the calls and I'm going to show up to my coaching appointment with Julie. And it wasn't until after I saw people come in after me and watch them start changing that I was like, oh, hey, I can do this. And it was nice because um, they showed up imperfectly. And that's not a judgment. To me, that was so relieving and freeing to see other women show up imperfectly. They didn't hold themselves, at least they didn't appear to hold themselves to a standard of perfection. They weren't like, okay, I listened to every word. I took meticulous notes. I did the yoga thing after. I did all the things. They were like, I listened to this module and I couldn't really get like a ton out of it because this is going on, but I did get this and this is how it helped me. And I was like, oh, so then I just started showing up. I just started with, okay, I'm going to listen to the module and I'll write down something. And then that created like a snowball effect where I just, by the end, 3 hours of my time wasn't enough time. Like I loved what I was learning. I loved what I was experiencing that like I didn't care about the time commitment. I found a way to make it happen because I felt the benefit of it. Even if it was just the like grounding in before we got into a call, like I needed that time once or twice a week.
It's
Like it helped so much.
yeah, it's really
And
perfectionism that shows up in a lot. And it's funny because it would be less healing if you did try to approach the whole journey with that energy of I'm going to do it perfectly. That would keep you stuck in what got you there in the first place, right? So it's actually more healing than anything to be like, hey, I missed weeks, right, of live calls, and I'm going to show back up as
yeah,
in my head, normally my ego would be like, I'm a loser, I'm too far behind, like I can't jump back in. But that decision to show back up after not doing it perfect, that could be the most breakthrough moment for a client because it takes down this, you know, this ego protective mechanism of perfectionism that so many carry.
it was one of the things that benefited me the most was just showing up because I literally I don't know why I feel the need to confess this, but I have dropped out of college classes because I missed a few and I felt so much shame about it that I was like I'm just going to withdraw
Yeah.
because there's no way
Well, school
because of
trauma
the
is
perfection.
something we all bring in too, right? It's like so hard to get out of that mindset of this is a test or a course I need to ace. It's like, no, this is
Yeah.
life. Like it's really, it takes communication, reframes to get out of that mindset.
And it's funny because like when we were talking about self-compassion, this idea like kind of popped in my head was just like I think one of the reasons we are like kind of conditioned to think no, we have to be hard on ourselves, that's what's going to promote change is that like or we think that we need it from other people first. And technically in an ideal world, the people who teach you to have self-compassion are your parents by having compassion on you, by teaching you what compassion feels like and looks like. So we're kind of wired to look for that. And I think because of the way that society has like conditioned parenting for generations now, is to not be that way, is to actually like think that if you hold it, like I'm so disturbed by so many parenting teachings, especially around World War II. This idea that like don't hold your child or you're going to teach them to manipulate you. That's
Yeah.
what
Yep.
the heck? So counterintuitive um and fear-based. And I think that like parents for generations have been conditioned to be afraid of things for their kids. So they'll override the natural intuition to nurture.
Yep.
And so, because we're wired to seek for these things from someone else first so we can learn how to do it. And then I
Yeah.
think when that doesn't happen, that part of us doesn't mature because you're supposed to grow out of that, but
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. And so I think that like we carry that in ourselves. Like I was thinking about this, like when I look back, I was searching for self-acceptance. I was searching for compassion, kindness, grace from everyone else because as a kid, I wasn't didn't receive that and I think that that part of me didn't mature. And so now I have to like reparent, it's literally reparenting. Reparent myself, give myself those things, and in turn I'm able to give it to my kids who hopefully the hope is that it comes naturally to them to do it for their kids. So then their kids get to be the generation, they and their kids get to be the generation that just comes naturally. Self-compassion comes naturally because my parents treated me with compassion.
Yeah.
And then I think that's how we right that wrong. But this connected, and I totally lost where it connected. But There's that.
Well, it's
But I think
resonant.
like,
I was just talking to a friend last night about this. One of my biggest regrets is letting Ollie cry it out. I did the baby wise cry it out sleep training
mm,
method. So sometimes for like an hour and a half, I think was the longest I let him cry in bed, and I still have like a nervous system response bringing that up and saying that. It's
yeah,
taken a lot of self-forgiveness and even repair. Like you said, that's the good news. It's never too late. We've even done funny things where I told Ollie, hey, you having separation anxiety at bedtime is probably on me. And I told him when you were a baby, I thought the right thing to do. All the advice I was getting was to let you cry it out. But I now know that that was not best for your body. And I'm so sorry. Could we redo that? And so we've actually um, done like he pretended he was a baby and he was like, wah, wah. And I come in, I'm like, Ollie, like, hi, what do you need? He loved it. He ate it up. But stuff like that can rewire a nervous system that has attachment wounds. We're
yeah,
coming up on time here, Katie, but I do
yeah,
have a couple of other questions if we can squeeze them in. One is,
yeah.
what surprised you about my coaching? Did you have any doubts, misconceptions before starting? I've never asked you this question, so I'm curious.
No, I don't know that I had any like personal doubts about you. I think that one of my issues with everything is that I'm like, I have usually two, these are pretty consistent across the board, is like, okay, well, this might be completely like fake. This might just be like a ploy to get money, which is just my lack of ability to trust sometimes. And then also, okay, well, what if it works for everyone else but not for me?
Mhm.
Like those were the two things that I think I was most worried about. I wasn't worried about you as a coach because what you said earlier, authenticity is a frequency you can feel. And I think that was one of the reasons I gravitated towards you, even though at that point in my life I was pretty disconnected from my own intuition. But I still like even when I talked to you on the phone, I was like, yeah, this might not work for me, but I think it's legit.
I remember that conversation. You were in your car, and I was like, I love this human. I really hope she says yes because I want more time with her. She's so awesome.
That's
So,
awesome. Did you know? Okay, no, we'll talk about that another time. So you
okay.
said authenticity is a frequency, and actually, this they did a study on frequencies because you can track them. You can like document them, track them, record them. Authenticity is higher frequency than love.
Oh, shoot. That's
The
amazing.
highest frequency is authenticity
Yeah, I'm gonna have
that
to
comes
take
from
a
the
note
body.
all about that. We're gonna have to talk on Marco Polo on that.
Yeah.
So, my last question, my friend, before our rapid fire game is if someone's on the fence about working with me, trying the Root to Rise journey, what would you tell them?
One, the first thing I would tell them is like check in with your intuition, check in with it. And two, I would also say, this, I'm trying not to be long winded. We live in a society where we're looking for a quick permanent fix. Quick permanent fixes don't exist. Human beings, we're dynamic beings. We're always changing and should always be learning and evolving. We seem to get this idea in our heads that we need to arrive. And so this program needs to get me to arrive. And if it doesn't get me to arrive, it's not worth it. And to that, I would say, take a leap of faith and try the journey. Give the journey a chance because,
Hello
like
and
I said
welcome to Fair Figure.
earlier, when you commit, that was weird.
Sorry.
You're right. When you commit to something, the frequency of committing will open up doors for your continued progression. I was so worried. I remember when I approached your program, I was like, is this going to help me arrive? I need to be healed as if it's a destination. Um, and what I realized through just imperfectly showing up and trusting the process and just going on the journey was that healed is not a destination. There is no point of arrival in the human existence. It should could be, and we need to make peace with the fact that it's a continual progression and it's a lot of fun. It's hard, but there's a lightness to this kind of hard. Like I've experienced some of the hardest things I've ever experienced in my life in your program, not because of your program, but because of what it forced me or gave me the opportunity to confront in myself, in my marriage, in my other relationships, in my faith. And yet there was a lightness to the confronting the obstacle. So I guess a short-winded way to say that is take a chance. I don't think you'll regret taking the chance because the frequency of taking the chance will open opportunities that are going to bless you for the rest of your life if you keep going.
So well said, Katie. And I'm laughing now because we didn't even have time to get into it, but I love seeing how you talk about your husband now. We'll save that for another
Yeah.
time. But like you started with this critical nitpicking energy. You said you couldn't get out of that energy. And really, you learned that that was because that was how you were treating yourself. Once you learned to treat yourself different, guess
Yeah.
what? It flooded out. But it just makes me so happy to see an ease and a fun and a deep, authentic communication and still conflict, but being able to approach that conflict as a team now instead of pointing fingers, bad othering. There is this safety between you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's really beautiful and it has trickled into your kids. And I just want to honor you for taking a leap of intuitive faith and seeing what it has led to. So, now the big question is, are you ready for the rapid fire game? All
Yes.
right,
We'll
question
see.
number one. What is your number one book recommendation, either for fun or life-changing?
Oh, mm. Okay. For fun, I'm sorry, Pride and Prejudice. I listen to it on repeat all the time, and Brandon can tell because I start talking more properly when I listen to it. He's like, "You're listening to Pride and Prejudice,"
Uh,
because I use bigger words. That's my version of fun. Life changing. I'm sorry, I have to cheat. There's two. The grief recovery method has been massive for me, but also I just started reading a book called Soul Care, and I'm obsessed. It's 7 transformational principles to have a healthy soul, and it's a Christian book, and it's so far it's been phenomenal.
Amazing. I'm going to link those in the show notes. Okay, question number two. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, my guilty pleasure, uh, shopping. I love it. All the shopping, all the time.
Good for you. You go, girl. Question number three. What is the meaning of life? Going deeper now.
The meaning of life, in my opinion, is to grow our souls. It's to use everything that comes our way as an opportunity to grow our souls so that when we return to whatever is after this, we have our growth to show for it.
I have a whole 20-minute polo on you explaining this. And so if anyone would like it, maybe I'll link that in the show notes. I love how quickly you responded to that.
Hopefully, I'm not wearing pajamas in that polo.
Last question. Best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Oh, the best piece of advice I've ever received. Honestly, I have to go to um, just recently. Sarah Beth told me, "You make sense. Give yourself the grace you strive to give others."
Hmm.
And that has I think about that all the time. Like when I'm starting to get frustrated with myself, I'm like, hey, no, we make sense. Let's think about this. Let's give ourselves grace.
Yeah, I love her because her whole energy is just dripping with grace. She was one of the first people to reflect that back to me and, the co-regulation of, oh, this is what grace feels like energetically. She was a huge imprint. And so I'll actually also link in the show notes of this episode, an episode I did with her on grief, since that came up so much. Let
Yeah.
me write that down. Sorry, Beth, episode grief. Okay. So, Katie, thank you so much for being willing to take a whole hour
Yeah.
raising kiddos. I'm so impressed by their patience. Tell them
I know. I did.
Auntie Becky says hi, and I can't wait to spoil them in Pigeon Forge. And
I
I love you so much. Thanks for being on.